I met David's parents on our 5th anniversary. 5 years of, they're busy, the timing isn't right, maybe next month. 5 years of watching him visit them alone while I stayed home. 5 years of being told I was overthinking it. When I finally stood in their pristine living room, his mother looked at me like I was a stain on her white couch. "So, you're Sophia." Margaret didn't offer her hand. "David's told us so much about you." The way she said it made my skin crawl. David squeezed my shoulder. "Mom, Dad, this is the woman I'm going to marry." His father, Robert, finally looked up from his newspaper. "Marry? That's quite sudden." "We've been together 5 years," I said quietly. "Yes, well," Margaret smoothed her skirt. "David has always been impulsive." The dinner was worse. They spoke around me, through me, occasionally at me. Every answer I gave was met with a tight smile from Margaret or a dismissive grunt from Robert. David ate in silence, refilling his wineglass 3 times. On the drive home, I finally asked, "Why didn't you want me to meet them?" He kept his eyes on the road. "I told you, they're difficult." "That's not an answer, David." "Can we not do this tonight? I'm exhausted." I should have pushed. I didn't. 2 weeks later, Margaret called me directly. "Sophia, dear, I think we should have lunch. Just us girls." Her voice dripped with false warmth. "I'd love to get to know you better." Something in my gut warned me, but I said yes anyway. She chose a restaurant near her country club. Expensive, hushed, the kind of place where everyone knew each other. Margaret arrived 15 minutes late, offered no apology. "I hope you don't mind, but I invited someone else." She waved toward the entrance. "My son's ex-girlfriend, Claire. She's practically family." Claire was everything I wasn't. Tall, elegant, from the same world as David's parents. She kissed Margaret's cheek like they'd done this 100 times, because they had. "Claire still joins us for holidays," Margaret said, smiling. "She's such a dear, always has been." I should have left. Instead, I sat through an hour of them reminiscing about Claire and David's relationship, their shared history, inside jokes I wasn't part of. Margaret kept touching Claire's hand, kept saying, "Remember when?" kept looking at me to make sure I understood. I understood perfectly. When I confronted David that night, he sighed like I was being unreasonable. "Claire and my mom stayed close. That's normal. They were friends before we even dated." "Your mother ambushed me with your ex-girlfriend." "She was trying to include you." He rubbed his temples. "You're being paranoid." "I'm being disrespected." "See, this is why I waited to introduce you. I knew you'd make it difficult." He walked toward the bedroom. "My parents are traditional. They need time to adjust. Can you just try a little harder?" That's when the pattern started. Margaret would call David, never me. She'd invite him to family dinners, mention casually that I was welcome if I wanted to come. When I did attend, she'd seat me at the opposite end of the table. She'd ask Claire about her new job, her vacation, her opinions on everything. She'd ask me to help in the kitchen. "Sophia, dear, could you grab the serving platters? They're in the top cabinet." "Sophia, would you mind clearing the table?" "Sophia, be a dear and make coffee for everyone." Claire never lifted a finger. After 3 months of this, I told David I wasn't going anymore. He was angry in that quiet, cold way that feels worse than yelling. "You're giving up? Just like that?" "I'm not giving up. I'm protecting myself." "From what? My family being a little old-fashioned?" He shook his head. "You knew what you were getting into." "No, David, I didn't. Because you hid them from me for 5 years. I was protecting you. By letting me walk into an ambush unprepared?" I felt something shift inside me. "Or were you protecting them from having to pretend to accept me?" He didn't answer. That was answer enough. I stopped going to family dinners. David went alone, came home late, smelling like his mother's perfume and wine. He stopped asking if I wanted to join. I stopped asking why he still went. Then Margaret called me again. "Sophia, I think we need to talk, woman to woman." Her voice had lost its false sweetness. "I'm going to be direct because I respect you too much to lie." I about laughed at that. David deserves someone from his world, someone who understands his family's expectations, someone like Claire. She paused. "I'm not saying you're a bad person, but you're not right for him. Surely you can see that." My hands were shaking. I made them stop. "Does David know you're saying this to me?" David is confused right now. He thinks he wants something different, something exciting. But that fades, dear, and when it does, he'll realize what he's lost. Her voice softened with false kindness. "I'm trying to save you both pain. Let him go now, before you've wasted more years." I need to go. Think about what I said. Think about whether you're being fair to him, holding him back from the life he's meant to have. I hung up. Sat in silence for an hour. When David came home, I told him everything. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "She's just protective. She told me to leave you." "She's old-fashioned. She doesn't understand our generation." He tried to take my hand. I pulled away. "Look, I'll talk to her. But you have to understand, she's my mother. I can't cut her off." "I'm not asking you to cut her off." "Then what are you asking?" "I'm asking you to defend me. Once. Just once." He looked away. "It's more complicated than that." "It's really not." But he never did talk to her. Or if he did, nothing changed. The family dinners continued without me. The phone calls came at odd hours. Claire's name appeared more and more in conversation. 6 months later, David asked if we could have dinner with his parents. "One more chance," he said. "Please, for me." I was so tired, tired of fighting, tired of explaining, tired of being treated like I was the problem for wanting basic respect. But I looked at the man I'd loved for 6 years, and I said yes. This time, Claire was already there when we arrived. She was sitting in what I'd started thinking of as my chair. Margaret was showing her photo albums. David as a child, David at his college graduation, David and Claire at some gala. "Oh, Sophia," Margaret finally acknowledged me. "You're here. We started without you. You don't mind, do you? We didn't know if you'd come." David had confirmed that morning. She knew I was coming. Robert handed David a scotch. "Son, we wanted to talk to you about the foundation's board position. Claire's father mentioned you'd be perfect for it." They talked for 40 minutes about business opportunities, social connections, the right people to know. I sat in silence, watching David nod along, watching Claire touch his arm when she laughed, watching Margaret beam at them both. No one asked me a single question. When Margaret disappeared to the kitchen, Claire followed. Their laughter drifted back, intimate and easy. David smiled toward the sound, something soft in his expression I hadn't seen in months. That's when I understood. This wasn't about me not trying hard enough. This was never about me at all. David had kept me away from his parents because he knew exactly what would happen. He'd known they'd never accept me. He'd known they'd kept Claire in their lives. He'd known, and he'd let me walk into it anyway. And some part of him, maybe a large part, wanted what they wanted. I stood up. I need to use the restroom. I walked past the kitchen, past the sound of Margaret and Claire's conspiratorial whispers, past the family photos that would never include me. I walked out the front door, got in my car, and drove home. David called 17 times. I answered on the 18th. "What the hell, Sophia? You just left?" "Yes." "You embarrassed me. You embarrassed yourself." "No, David, I stopped letting you embarrass me." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm done." "Then, done with what?" "With trying to earn a place in your life that you never intended to give me." My voice was steady, calm. "With watching you pretend you don't see what they're doing. With being treated like an inconvenience you're too guilty to get rid of. That's not fair. I love you." "You love the idea of being with someone different, someone outside your world. It makes you feel interesting." I looked around our apartment, our shared life that had never really been shared. "But you love their approval more, and you always will." "You're overreacting. If you just—" "I'm not explaining anymore, David. I'm not justifying my hurt. I'm not convincing you that I deserve respect. I'm just done." "Sophia." "I'll be moved out by the end of the week." I hung up. He called back immediately. I didn't answer. Margaret called the next morning. "Sophia, David is devastated. You need to stop being so sensitive and work this out. This is what relationships require: compromise, sacrifice." "I've done nothing but compromise for 6 years." "Oh, don't be dramatic. All I've ever asked is that you make an effort to fit in. Is that so unreasonable?" "I don't want to fit into a space where I have to shrink." "That's very selfish. David needs a partner who supports his family, his future." "Then I hope he finds one." My voice was quiet, final. "But it won't be me." "You're throwing away everything over what? Hurt feelings? Pride?" "I'm choosing myself. For the first time in 6 years, I'm choosing myself." I hung up, blocked her number, blocked David's. The next 3 weeks were a blur of packing, paperwork, finding a new apartment. David tried showing up twice. I didn't open the door. His parents tried sending Claire to talk sense into me. I told her through the door that I had nothing to say. The last box was loaded when David finally caught me in the parking lot. He looked smaller somehow, tired. I talked to them, really talked to them, told them they were wrong, that they had to accept you. "When?" "Last week, after you blocked me." He stepped closer. "I told my mother she was out of line, that Claire needed to stop coming to family dinners, that you were my priority." "Last week, after I left." I closed the car trunk. "Not 5 years ago when you started hiding me. Not 6 months ago when your mother told me to leave you. Not at any of the dozen dinners where I was treated like staff." I met his eyes. "Last week, when you finally realized I meant it." "I know I should have done it sooner, but I'm doing it now. Doesn't that count?" "It counts, just not enough." "What does that mean?" It means you spent 6 years showing me exactly where I ranked. I believe you now. Sophia, please. I love you. I know you do. The way you're capable of loving someone. I opened my car door. I just need someone who's capable of more. That's it? We're just done? We've been done, David. You just didn't notice until I stopped trying. He grabbed my hand, not forceful, desperate. One more chance. Let me prove I've changed. I gently removed his hand. You haven't changed. You've just finally experienced consequences. What can I do? Tell me what to do. I looked at this man I'd built 6 years around, tried to remember what I'd loved about him before I'd spent so much energy managing his family, his guilt, his comfort. Be honest with the next person. Tell her about your family from the start. Don't hide her for years and then act surprised when she can't survive what you've thrown her into. I got into my car. And maybe ask yourself why you needed to hide her in the first place. Sophia, I'm not angry anymore. I'm not hurt. I'm just finished. I started the engine. I hope you figure out what you really want, David. I hope it's worth what you gave up to avoid disappointing them. He stood in the parking lot as I drove away, getting smaller in my rearview mirror until he disappeared completely. 3 months later, mutual friends told me David and Claire were dating. Margaret had already started planning their engagement party. I felt nothing. Not vindication, not pain. Just the quiet certainty that I'd made the right choice. My apartment is smaller, quieter. There are no family dinners to dread, no calls to screen, no energy spent translating disrespect into "they just need time." When my mother asked if I regretted leaving, I thought about it honestly. No, I regret staying as long as I did. Do you miss him? I miss who I thought he could be, but I don't miss who he actually was. Last week, Claire called. I don't know how she got my new number. Sophia? It's Claire. I need to talk to someone who understands. Her voice was strained. Margaret invited my ex-boyfriend to dinner last night. She said he's practically family. She's doing the same thing to me that she did to you. I almost laughed, almost felt sorry for her, almost offered advice. Instead, I said, "That sounds difficult." What did you do? How did you handle it? I stopped handling it. I left. But you loved him. You dairy up? I didn't give up. I choosing. I love it out my window at the city lights. Good luck, Claire. I hung up before she could respond. My son stays silent now. No manipulation disguised as family obligation. No guilt trips disguised as love. No one asking me to shrink so they can stay comfortable. I spent 6 years believing that if I just tried harder, adjusted more, proved myself enough, I'd earn my place in David's world. Donated. I needed to earn it. Access to me when the privilege. They dating with twice of voice.